Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Lita, and on my channel, I love to talk about all things involving journals, sketchbooks, and stationery, or another way I like to say it is ink, paper, and scissors. So today what I want to do is to talk about the daily section of Hobonichi Cousin. So question that I've seen asked recently was, how do you use your daily pages in your Hobonichi Cousin? So I've come up with 5 different ways that this can be done. Oh, here comes my little baby, my puppy. Hey little girl, hold on a second. Okay. Get in your bed. Okay, sorry about that, I'm back. Okay, so 5 ways to use the daily section of your Hobonichi Cousin. And if you stick all the way through to the end, I'm going to have a bonus idea for all of you. So let's get right into it. And let me organize my little book here and let's jump to my daily section. Okay, let's find the beginning of January. Here we go. Okay, so my first way that I like to use a journal, to use a Hobonichi Cousin, is to journal. Now, when I journal, mainly what I do is I write. I will often write in the very beginning of my day or at the very end of my day. I have kind of a morning ritual and somewhat also, I guess, night ritual, although not as, yes, I do. I have both when I think about it. But the morning one is much more steady. And I have very boring, simple things that I do that are like when I get up, I make mate cocido, which is a Spanish type of tea beverage. And then I do a bunch of other just little small things. And once my mate is done, basically I come in here and I have my little disc here, that leather disc, and I will put my drink down on here and I will start to do my morning journaling session. And I like to use words. I'm an English major from college and I love to write. I've always liked to write. So I have a lot of writing and journaling in my pages. So there's different ways though, like how I mentioned you can write. You can do like what I do in the beginning of the day. Sometimes I do what I consider to be free flow type of writing, where maybe I have a lot of thoughts that have been in my head or things that are bothering me and I just want to pour them out, and I really don't want to think at all about grammar, punctuation, capitalization, anything like that. I just go. It doesn't even need to make sense. It can be like completely, it's just uninterrupted thought. Don't worry about anything. Just write it down. Now, I don't normally do that type of writing in here, but sometimes I will do a small section that's like that. I actually have a specific book that's 4 morning pages, but I haven't been using it in the past couple months. And if I find I need to, I probably would end up putting that book out on my desk and trying to see. Actually, I have it in reach on my bookshelf right to the right. But if it's just some little quick blurb about something I want to get off of my mind real quick, I will use it in the morning. Doing free flow. But also it could be more of me reflecting on what happened the day before and I will write about that. But more commonly when I journal, I do it at the end of the night as part of my end of the day ritual, where I sit at my desk for anywhere from 5 to 10 or 15 minutes and I will just write. And I will recap my day. Like I'm pretty sure that this and this did happen towards the end of the day. These type of things where I write these long, this was me recapping my day. This for sure, I'm almost certain. No, actually it starts, well, no, because I could be recapping, saying I got up early. Yeah, it says got up early. So I was just recapping. Collected bay leaves. This was me recapping. This is totally me recapping the day. So there's other ways, like you may not feel good about writing using your handwriting, but maybe what you'll want to do is, if you have an old-fashioned typewriter, it's kind of cool that if you write down stuff, that you can journal and you can write things in your typewriter. Or if you don't have old-fashioned typewriter, you can use the modern way using a computer with whatever fonts you like. And you don't even have to journal necessarily with, you can write your thoughts or some brilliant thought or something poetic that you thought, And you can take that from that paper and cut it and glue it and stick it into a journal for that day. Same thing with your computer font, that if there's something that you write, you can press the print button for your printer and you can always just glue that into the day. So yeah, is it going to chunk up your cousin? Yes, which is why my cousin is actually a cousin Avec, because I do like to glue and stick and add all types of ephemera and not just write in my journal. So I have an Avec so that I have plenty of room for it to chunk up. So journaling definitely is one of the easiest ways to use up your daily page, whether it's talking about what you would like to do or thoughts or plans for the future, or just daydreaming, or if it's a poem, if you like to write poems, or if you want to at the end of the day do a recap of your day. So this leads me right into a second way that you can use your daily section, and that is art. So why I say that journaling leads right into art, because one way you can also journal is with using art. You can draw your day. There's a woman that I used to know at the school I worked at in New York City, that she had a book she wrote that's called Draw Your Day, and she has an Instagram account that's, I don't know if it's called Draw Your Day also, but I'll try to find it, see if I can put it down in the descriptions below, and so that you can look that up. But yeah, you can draw your day, and you can always add in little words and blurbs next to whatever the drawing is. You could draw what you ate for breakfast. If you went to the park, you could draw some leaves or some trees. If you had gone to a museum that day, maybe like the Guggenheim has a very well-known exterior to the way the museum itself is. You could draw like that and say, went to the Guggenheim with, and what was your favorite thing you saw. Or you can just, like I said, also with food, you could draw what you had for dinner or for breakfast or for lunch or for a snack. Like I could draw a pomegranate, say, oh, I ate my very last pomegranate, which is actually a true story. I ate it the other day and I was like, I can't find pomegranates in the stores anymore. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I made a big drama about it to my mom about this is the last pomegranate of the season. If I was into sketching and art drawing my day, I would definitely have put the pomegranate in there. So when it comes to art though, one of the things I loved to do when I lived in New York was urban sketching, and I definitely did used to I have a sketchbook where I used for my urban sketching, but there was lots of times when I was commuting on the subway, and sometimes I would just sketch the people on the subway. I would sit there with my book out, which wasn't Hobonichi at the time, but you can use your dailies for just sketching. Sketch if you want to do urban sketching, if you want to use pencils, if you want to use markers, if you want to do watercolors. So this will lead me to my third way of, well, here's some art as a matter of fact. This is line drawing. I do artist trading cards, so I will put in ephemera from my artist trading card exchanges. And this was one that someone gave me. But I do a little bit of sketching here and there in my book. Oh, let me see. There must be some somewhere. Oh, here we are. Here I was doing Zentangles. Here's a syringe, like needle on it, from when my mom got her vaccine. So this from art, we're going to jump to the third way, which is you can use your dailies for tests and swatches. Tests, not tests like an exam in a school or a college or university, like pen tests, marker tests, fountain pen ink tests, watercolor swatches. You can do bleeding tests, like to see for ghosting. If you have pens, you can, fountain pens or regular pens, you could do the same thing, whether it's, oh my gosh, this is a classic. I'm going to show you this. Let me see if I find it real quick. This was not a test. This is not a test of the emergency pen test system. I already know that what happened here. I knew it would happen, but it was just an accident. I grabbed a Jelly Roll pen that's a shadow pen. And if you use this type of a Jelly Roll pen on a Stalogy or Tomo River paper, it will bleed through like a mother. And I was like already committed, but I was like, oh darn it, oh my gosh, I didn't. So I just went ahead and kept writing and went with the flow, because luckily I am one of those people that has very low disturbed level when it comes to ghosting or bleed through. Some people just like can't stand it. Me, I'm like, okay, yeah, that happened. No big, I don't care. Actually, sometimes I actually like it. Like, for example, here, this is watercolor testing. So I kind of made like this is supposed to be, I was testing to see how the water, how it would go, how the paper would hold up, because I've never really used Tomo River paper before. I've always had the Stelligy paper, which is not Tomo. And so I kind of did like earth down here, and then I made it darker with, it's supposed to be like a hill or mountain, and this is supposed to be trees. This is theoretically supposed to be sky, and that's theoretically supposed to be sunlight. But I went kind of heavy with the water, and I was pretty surprised how little of ghosting and bleeding through it did. But I actually like that. I'm one of those people that likes the crinkly paper, that likes the bleed through. The disturbance level for me is like next to 0 on a 1 to 10 scale. It's like, it's very rare. Like when that thing that happened with the shadow jelly roll pen happened, I was kind of like, oh man, that is really messed up. I'm not even gonna look for it. I was like, that's really messed up. And it bothered me a little bit, but I got over it real quick. I'm like, I will tip something in and that will be like fine. And then I'll just write over it and all the writing will be underneath that. And so it'll be good. And it's been fine. So tests. Oh, and then fountain pen inks. You can do fountain pen ink testing also. I have a whole bunch of fountain pen inks that I still need to do testing on. And it'll probably end up happening. I don't know if it'll happen in February. If it does, it'll probably be more towards the second half of the month, because I'm just getting through using different types of markers and stuff in January, and I'm just starting to dip into watercolors. So I have a lot more different types of watercolors. I know that these are heavy saturated. These are Jane Davenport Mermaid watercolor markers, and I know the color saturation on these is super heavy. So I was not surprised in the least about the bleed through, the ghosting through. But I have other watercolor sets, and I will probably end up doing swatches or doing something similar to this where I just wet the whole page and then see how, and then just make some very vague image on there and see how it comes through, how the page reacts to it. So that is one way. Use your daily pages for tests and for swatches. So a really simple way to use your daily pages is what I've just mentioned, which is not necessarily journaling, but it is memory keeping. And so me doing this, tipping in this art is part of memory keeping, because that's part of one of the ways that I do exchanges. But these photos that I add in for my HP Sprocket is definitely my way of doing memory keeping. So I have quite a few photos in here, and it's not the only way that you can memory keep is by adding in photos. Obviously, as I journal, that's a way of keeping memories. But when I say memory keeping, for me, a lot of times it's using photos. Or in this month, I don't believe I have any examples. No, I don't. And I'm going to tell you why there's not examples for me to show you. I'm going to blame the number one thing to be blamed for all things of 2020 and now part of 2021, coronavirus. I'm going to blame the coronavirus for my lack of memory keeping. Because how am I supposed to create memories when I'm stuck inside the house all the time? Right? Okay, so I am, because I'm taking care of my mother. It's like I go out for hikes out in nature, and that's why I take photos of my dog with me, or of a path or some trees that I found beautiful. But here I'm going to show you a great example of memory keeping. So maybe I shouldn't share this out there, but August 12th is my birthday. And so on my birthday, back in 2018, that this is from, this is how I do memory keeping. These are all places that I went on my birthday, and it overflowed to the whole weekend. So these are all things that are from my birthday. And also in this pocket is all types of stuff that we went here, the New York Botanical Garden. This is Teiyaki, is a Japanese ice cream place. this is just some ephemera and whatnot. But here's my ticket that when we went into the city, because I was out in Long Island with my then partner. And so to go into the city, to go to Nomois, you know, we needed to take the train before we got to the subway. And here's the ice cream place. Here's Nomois. Here's some things from the menu at Nomois that we ordered that I stuck down into there. Here's a picture. This is actually the street that Nomois is a tea. It's called Nomois Tea Parlor, but it's a dim sum place in New York City. So this is a card that my best friend Jade had sent me, and I cut out this part of the card. That's supposed to be me and her theoretically, because yeah, we're that's us. 5 Pennies is ice cream place out in Rockville Center in Long Island. Here we went to Lush. Oh, we went to Alice's Teacup. Yeah. So that's a lot of memory keeping, but I have a lot of pages that are like that. Here's an example of art. So even though, here's more art. Even though this is not my Hobonichi, I just wanted to give you an idea of, so here's the New York Botanical Garden ticket that I tipped in. That's a way of doing memory keeping. So you can do memory keeping like that. This is all, I know what it is. My daughter came to visit me in New York City, and this is all things that we did and places we went during her visit. So you could do memory keeping inside your daily section of your journal. Like I said, I just kind of blame COVID. All I have is photos from trails that I may have gone out with, either by myself or with my dog. So memory keeping, definitely. So let's see, journaling, art, swatches, memory keeping, and then the last way that I would recommend for you to use your daily pages is really the most obvious and most simple, and that is for planning and for your priorities. For using this timeline that I have here, and then there's 5 boxes here. Use anywhere from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to use all 5. Use 3. Make a top 3 priority. Look, as a matter of fact, here, top 3 priorities for this day. And here I'd actually used a part of the timeline for appointments and tasks and things I wanted to do that day. And it has nothing on it because it was after I wrote this and this that I decided I wanted to do the watercolor swatch. And what I'll do is now I will go back over this and I will write over this area. And if I want to write over this area, I'll do it with a white jelly roll so it'll stand out. But so planning, using the timeline or the 5 boxes up here, or if you don't want to use the 5 boxes up here, another way that, then you also have, like, if you use the timeline and you use the 5 boxes, you'll have all of this space over here for any type of writing, journaling, sketching, swatches that you want to do, but you could still use this for planning and for your top priorities for that specific day. Yes, there is the weeks section where you can have and do that, but I do use that section over there in the weeks for writing a top 5 things. So it's not very often that you'll see me do something like this. If anything, this was brainstorming. This was research that I used over in this section, and this was notes taken about a cello lesson. So here again, this is a research for hiking. There aren't going to be very many times when I use my daily pages this way, but it does happen. I don't use the timeline much, but I will occasionally use the boxes at the top for my top priorities for that day, even if I have things written out in the weeks section. Let me get my little weeks. Yeah, even though I'll have things written out in my weeks, I will occasionally do that and then use the rest of the day for, as I already mentioned. Now, I want to give you a suggestion for within your planning and priorities, something else that you could write and use within this daily section. If you don't want to use your top priorities or use your timeline, you could use either one of these spaces for something like a word of the day to increase your understanding and knowledge of language. And it doesn't have to be the English language. It can be a foreign language. Eventually one day things are gonna be better and we're gonna be able to travel and go places again, and wouldn't it be so great to have conversational English, well, ignore that, conversational Spanish, French, German, Italian, or something like that, European country, or, Latin American country, that or Mandarin, conversational Mandarin, wherever it is that is interesting to you to go to travel, try to pick up. If you do a word a day, I think you would be surprised how your conversational language may get at a level where you can go places and be able to kind of get the basics, done or accomplished. And other countries really enjoy that when you can at least do some of the bare minimum. As an American, I feel like that's a good influence from me to you, or an attempt for me to influence you to learn other languages if you plan to travel to other countries. Do a word of the day. I do, even though actually English is not my first language. I came to the United States, I was a Spanish speaker, but turns out I'm really not as bad at English as I started out. I did graduate from college with English, as English was my major, is what I'm saying. Actually, I graduated with English honors, but I was an English major. But even though I actually use this section where I write from Merriam-Webster or dictionary.com, I write a word of the day, and if the word of the day is one that I don't know, I know I'm digressing from the 5 ways to use your dailies, but because I'm mentioning that you could use this section for word of the day, so what I do is whatever that word of the day is, I record it over there in my yearly, and if I don't know the word, then this is not a good example. Here's a good example, because this week I used green as my main color. So if it's in purple, that means it was a word that I wasn't familiar with. This week I happen to use purple a lot up here, but here's purple here. That's a word of these 2 words, 1, 2, 3 words this week were ones I wasn't necessarily familiar with. Same thing here. 4. I wrote 4 in there. Here's 2. So you could incorporate that here. If you don't want to, or if you want to use a bigger space, so you can write the definition and origin, even maybe pronunciation. But if it doesn't interest you that, then one of the other ways that you can also use this is for scripture. If you're a religious person or you have some type of belief that you practice, you could write that in there. If you're, Buddhist, you could put a thought principle in there that you're studying, for that time. Or if you're a Catholic or Baptist or whatever your religion or belief is that you practice, you could put in a passage there that maybe your study for that day. So even though you can use this in the most common way for planning and priorities, you can also add into because to a lot of people, honestly, their ability to communicate and their feelings of faith and hope and love is actually something that's a priority and something that people want to plan and put into their day. So I bring up those word of the day for increasing language and communication, and also putting in your scripture or a concept for your belief system into there, because again, planning and priorities. I know that those are 2 things that for most people that are well-rounded people is a part of their life, that they plan and that they prioritize each day. So this leads me to my very last, if you made it all the way to the end, my bonus, which I don't have an example of because it is not something that I have done, but I'm making it my bonus because of the fact that it's something I myself would also like to do and to use inside my dailies, or within your dailies. The first day, before the first day of each month, there is 1 blank page. In January, I put an image and a quote, but let's move to February. So you see, here's day 1, but before each day, you have this 1 blank page. So for your bonus, what I would say is, if you don't want to incorporate this concept I'm about to tell you into one of your daily pages in the middle of the month, you could put it also into this blank page, and that is mind mapping. So mind mapping is where you take a topic and then you break it down into basically what, when, where, how, and why. And I will link, I'm going to definitely link at least one video down below to a person on YouTube whose name is Peter Draws. And why I'm putting his mind mapping is because I just find him to be really entertaining. And I think it's when you can learn something in an entertaining way, it's really great. So I'm going to put his mind mapping down in my comments down below, and I encourage you to check that out if you're not familiar with mind mapping. Now, if you are familiar with mind mapping, like I said, basically it's taking a topic. You know, maybe you want to start your own business, and it's like, okay, so you start a business, what's the objective? Then, you know, you want to put into it like who is it that you're going to target, how are you going to get that done? That's, you know, there's this different areas and sections to it, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be any different topic, whatever your topic is. Like maybe one of my topic or my goal would be 100 hikes in Florida. So I want to figure out, how am I going to accomplish 100 hikes in Florida? So what's, you know, my topic might be hiking in Florida. My objective is to do 100 trails in Florida. So how am I going to do those 100 trails? Where am I going to do those 100 trails? What am I going to need? So I know kind of how to do it. I just haven't done it. I don't have an example for it, but my example will be down in the comments below. And that is my bonus to you, that you use your daily pages for mind mapping as often as you want to, or if you want to mind map what your goal is for that month. Like I said, this very first blank page is just a really great place to do it. And that way you could keep it as your focus is for your goal for that month. You'll have your mind mapping there to help keep you on track during the different days and weeks of the month. As you come here daily to your daily pages, you'll have that right there. So that is my last tip for ways to use your dailies in your Hobonichi Cousin. So I hope you found that entertaining, and that I hope you also maybe got some new idea out of it. And what would really be great is if you have some idea that I didn't mention. I would love it if you would leave me something down in the comments below. So not just to share with me, but with anyone else who comes across this video, so that they can learn and find new ways to enjoy their Hobonichi Cousin daily pages. So on that note, I want to wish you all well. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. And say, wherever this meets you at, I hope that you have a wonderful day, whether that is morning, noon, or night. Take care, everyone. Bye.